County. Joining us now live here on Fox 5 at 4 is Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. Thank you so much for being with us, Governor. I want to start with Maryland's role in all of this. You've really been leading the way among states. You were among the first states to close schools, bars and restaurants, limit crowd sizes. When did you realize that this state leadership was going to be necessary and that it wasn't going to be coming from the federal government, these decisions?
Well, so I'm the chairman of the National Governors Association, and we've been in communication with all the governors. In fact, we just completed another conference with all the governors just this afternoon. We have another one tomorrow with Vice President Pence. It'll be our fourth one in 2 weeks. But we took some pretty aggressive action really early. We declared a state of emergency in Maryland 15 days ago. Last Thursday, I think I was the first governor in America to close all of the schools statewide. I think we were one of the first ones to shut down all the bars and restaurants. I just think governors are on the front lines, and while they're doing, working hard and taking aggressive actions in Washington, we really sometimes can't wait for those actions because people's lives are at stake. So governors have different situations in different states, and we're able to take actions and make decisions based on what we think are necessary in our own individual states. And this thing is happening, changing so rapidly and growing so dramatically that we really don't have time to wait. And so, it changes almost minute by minute, and I'm just trying to make the decisions as rapidly and aggressively as we can to just try to, bend this curve downward so we can save thousands of lives.
And Governor, to that point, San Francisco ordering a 3-week lockdown. New York State, New York City at odds over instating this in the country's most populous city. We've seen you take charge and order establishments to close before many. Do you think that maybe a state lockdown in Maryland may be necessary in the short term?
Well, we're discussing every potential eventuality, and not only in Maryland, but Governor Cuomo is my vice chairman of the National Governors Association. He and I were leading the call with all the other governors this afternoon. We're talking with every governor about every possible thing that may happen. But we've made every decision that we think have been necessary so far to date. But tomorrow we'll be taking additional steps. Almost every day we take additional unprecedented actions that nobody thought were imaginable, but they're necessary.
And unprecedented right now, schools, restaurants, gyms, movie theaters, all closed. Governor, it does strike me that in order to reopen them, you're going to have to point to some indicators and say, this is why we're reopening schools now. This is why we're reopening businesses. What are those indicators going to be if this crisis looks to get much worse before it gets better?
Well, that's a really good question, and I'm not sure anybody has a definitive answer to that question. But we've convened a coronavirus emergency response team made up of some of the smartest doctors in the world right here from our state of Maryland. We're headquarters to Johns Hopkins University, University of Maryland Medical Center, NIH, FDA, and we've got the best minds in our state, but also at the federal level, trying to figure this out about when are we going to hit a peak? When will we start to see some kind of a point where we can reach the point where we've got it under control? But I don't think there's anyone really in America that has an answer to that question.
Yeah, and we're seeing video of these triage centers that are spurring up across the state, Governor. You've also grown those testing sites to now include vehicle emissions inspection stations for those drive-through testing. Today, the White House saying that it's exploring making self-testing available for people at home. Do you think this is something that you would support, or does your team that you're looking for reference have any sort of reservations about could this overwhelm healthcare providers even more?
Well, no, I think we're all in favor of trying to ramp up the availability of testing. But what we're concerned about is if we keep saying that tests are available and they're not really available, that tends to panic people, and they think they can go get a test, and then we can't really do it. So we want to make sure that when we announce something, we actually can deliver, because otherwise you just have people lined up crowding our emergency rooms and our doctor's offices and being turned away because the tests are not actually available. In Maryland, we're one of the first states in the country to be approved to do our own testing. The federal government has helped us get private labs to start producing these tests. The federal government's pushing to try to move things. We're trying to push here at the local level. But the honest answer is none of the states in America have enough tests, and everybody's doing everything they can to change that situation.
I want to end
but
real quick.
our idea was using the vehicle emissions test to do it. We can do that tomorrow, but we want to make sure before we drive all those people to get it that we have the back-end capability in our labs.
To get the results.
I want to end by zooming out from Maryland a bit. We're so interconnected here in the DMV. The decisions you make in Maryland affect life in the district and Virginia. I'm curious how often you're talking to Mayor Bowser and Governor Ralph Northam. Is it you personally speaking to them?
Yes.
Is it your staff's coordinating? And what does that communication look like?
You know, we're all talking together. In fact, you know, Mayor Bowser is included now in the governor's calls, and not part of the National Governors Association, but included on the call with the president and vice president yesterday, on our call, invited on our call today. We have another call tomorrow, which she'll be included in. Governor Northam, all of us are trying to work together, share best practices. You know, when we announced the closing of the bars and restaurants, not too long, maybe 5 hours after that, the district took the same action. And I know that Virginia is taking some aggressive actions.
Are you talking
also
to each other before making those decisions?
Well, we're making our own decisions as fast as we can without having a chance to sit down and wait for other decisions. And each individual leader is trying to
Governor,
make their own decisions.
do you think Virginia is being as aggressive as you were from the beginning?
I think at the beginning maybe we were way out front and more aggressive, but I do believe that Governor Northam has taken some very aggressive actions just in the past day or two.
But does Virginia need to close all establishments like you've done in Maryland and the mayor has done in the district?
You know, it's difficult because in the region here, people cross back and forth all over the place, and I think it would be a good step, but I don't want to second guess my fellow governor, my friend and neighbor. You know, he's making decisions based on his state, but of course, people in Maryland are crossing over to the bars in Virginia and coming back home. And so it's people are traveling on Metro and back and forth across the region, and if we really need to shut down this community transmission, we're all in this together, and we've got to work together as a team.
All right, Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland, we know you are a very busy man these days, and we appreciate you taking the time to inform us and make things a little clearer. Thank you.
Thank you.